welcome Ankit
Thank
to
you.
another episode of Tech with Sukant. Really appreciate you taking time on a busy what today is Thursday, right?
Thursday.
Thursday evening.
Yeah, it's always busy.
Navigating through Bangalore traffic, so I can imagine
Yeah.
you must already be exhausted with that. So,
Yeah. Especially today, it just happens to be that day. But yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
nice. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, Ankit. About your journey right from the undergrad to how you have navigated through this from the beginning and reached where you are right now.
Uh, See, I come from a very humble background in UP. My dad was a teacher. Uh, all that we knew was that if you're good at maths, you'll become an engineer. And then the era of 2000, that you'll become a software engineer. So it was an easy choice. I don't think I had any inputs on that. Uh, Getting into college was the first step where you put a lot of effort for getting into a premier college. Uh, got into a fairly good college in southern India.
Yeah.
This was my opportunity to break free from all the academics, rigor, geekiness, and live life. I ended up being a 5 pointer there.
Pretty average.
Not average, below average. Consciously there, but I think I invested a lot, and I think a lot of my leadership traits come from my dad. Even in all his capacity, he was a leader always.
Okay.
In situations, in moments, in plans, he's always a leader. And
Genetic.
it's genetic, and is if I'm an extrovert to the level of X, he's 10x. I feel awkward in front of him when he starts being himself. How, that's awkward. And a lot of that came to me. I did not get an opportunity to explore when I was in school. But when I came to college, when there was my teacher, my dad was teacher in the same school. So obviously there were a lot of eyes on you.
Was it difficult? Was it easy? How was that?
There were pros and cons. I don't know how do I look at it, but I couldn't break free. That I remember. But I also had a lot of advantages of him knowing things at right point of time, guiding me how things work.
Right.
I feel teachers were a little biased towards me on most people on positive side.
Right.
So I think that helped. I wouldn't deny that, but I couldn't break free. So when I came to the college, this was my first attempt of breaking free, exploring more beyond academics, study. I was in electrical engineering. I really could not find any sort of interest there, to be honest.
So when you did engineering, so was there any inspiration in the family or coming from such a humble background, coming from such a small town, how did you get to know that this could be a career path, getting to IIT or an NIT in itself? Did you plus two as well from there or?
I I think I am the first engineer in all the generation that I know of on my dad's side, my mom's side as well. But I think I was in a town. A lot of people had focus on study, but the direction that everyone wanted everyone to go on, if you're good at studies, was always UPSC.
Right.
And
Sarkari
then,
naukri.
then secondary was engineering because you're good at maths.
Yeah.
I think in 11th I got to know about everyone knew about IT, but I never knew how to get into IT. By the way, you're reading them about them in news or newspaper, but I just didn't know how to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then 11th, 12th, I think there was buzz about these entrance exams. So I said, okay, let's get into these entrance exams. That's how I got to know about some of them.
Okay.
AI was something I didn't know that point of time, but it was among the top three, so I ended up taking up. And then when I gave it on the first time, I realized both of them. Then I did a little bit more research. What are they all about? I realized I could do it. I went to Delhi. I did my coaching in Fiji, Delhi.
So you moved to Delhi
For a year after my 12th. No, after my 12th. Until 12th, I didn't know anything. I completed so I did my 12th in Hindi medium from UP board. That's how it was. So I did Ganit, Bhautik, Vigyan, Rasayan Vigyan, and all of them in Hindi, correct, until 12th standard. So I had to change the language, I had to change the syllabus for preparing for entrance exam. And that's how I got into Surat.
Those those exams weren't conducted in Hindi?
They were conducted in Hindi, but the syllabus was not there. Good coachings were always in English.
Got it. Right.
So you had to change both.
That must have been difficult as well, because you get used to certain terms, certain terminologies, and then transitioning from that, basically you're unlearning and then learning something new.
Yeah.
So,
I think so, but I feel there was certain advantages. The UP board syllabus was little difficult than CBSE.
that is true.
So the things that I was good at, I think I was good at better than a lot of other people because of just being by the virtue of different board.
Right.
But there were new things, obviously. I had to change syllabus. So there were, I wouldn't say it was just difficult. There were both sides. Then Suratkal explored my other side, which is leadership. Had random opportunities. I started playing games. I was known for Counter-Strike in college. So anything around Counter-Strike, all event management would just naturally come to me. My nickname was Papa in college. Half of people will still know me as Papa.
Not for wrong reasons.
Not for wrong reasons, for sure. It has a story, but forget that. And everyone will think of me if it is about organizing gaming. So in all cultural tech fest, all the gaming events are like, you have to think of me if you have to think of those. So that's how it was. There was a lot of politics in college because NITs had typically quotas for every state.
Right.
So like to the level that which branch, which caste will have, which caste category will have how many seats. That's how granular it was. There were fixed number of people every year coming from one state. So there was this politics of people. And every situation I also realized that I was thrown into situation. I acted like a leader, good or bad, I don't know, but I was always presented as a leader, and I think I liked it.
Presented it upfront, I think that's more important.
Yeah. So I think that I had clarity by end of my final year that I think this is what comes very naturally to me, and I would, in any form or shape, would want to be a leader. And I had clarity in my college.
Got it.
How do I reach there? I think I was still exploring. I thought I will do an MBA, CAT MBA, and I will then get into leadership. Sometimes I thought I'll go do UPSC. That's again a journey to leadership. All of them needed a lot of hard work, and I could not. Found an easy way. Being in tech, I think privileged to be in that era to start your journey in tech.
That transformation.
Yeah, in 2010 to 20, correct? So with very low effort, you get dividend in both terms of monetary benefits, lifestyle, colleagues. People travel a lot because of tech companies. So all of them coming your way. I think it became an easy, natural choice. After a few years of just being directionless, someone told me that if you are here, you've chosen, for whatsoever reason you've chosen to be here, why don't you just get deeper into it, get better at it? And I think that's when I started putting effort, and after 2 hops, I reached Amazon. And I celebrated Amazon for 8-9 months when I entered into Amazon. So that means like I was distracted. Then building Amazon Pay was a massive journey.
You built it?
Yeah, four of us. We were the 3 engineers, 1 manager. We started building Amazon Pay. Team grew to 28 people by the time I left after 3 years of Amazon Pay.
What made you leave Amazon? Was it the culture? Was it the workload? Amazon is quite infamous for that, right?
The culture wasn't bad. I think all the news that you read about is largely US. In India, especially when Amazon.in, the culture wasn't that bad.
Sure. It's typically the other way around, given the labor laws in US versus in India. But
yeah,
good to know that.
Yeah, like I myself did not experience any bad culture, but I feel all the news that I've read largely coming from the US, not India. My experience has been fairly good. Not one weekend that I had to, someone forced me to work unless it's an on-call. That's your responsibility.
Right.
So 4 years, not one weekend. So you can imagine how good the culture was. Shipping a new product, correct? So I think I'm fairly happy with the culture, the way I grew, the way everything happened. I think the 2 things that probably made me look out was one, that the sort of setup where everything is organized and all things are given to you. I didn't feel that I was adding value.
Yeah.
And when I'm not adding value, I'm lethargic, I'm ineffective.
Got a bit comfortable with what was already there.
Yeah, it's not comfortable. It's probably very uncomfortable for me. I am not at my best in a very organized setup. I need problems around me to solve.
Chaos.
Yes, more chaos. That wasn't there. I enjoyed whatever I've learned. Also, the journey. You're very slow in the journey. The entire growth. 4 years at Myntra, 4 years at Amazon. Difference of probably 2-3x of learning.
Yeah.
The amount of things that you learn as an engineer. So that was slow. Also, you are a drop in the ocean. So whatever you do, you don't know how you're contributing to Amazon. I'm not saying that this is one way of looking at it. For me, it mattered. For a lot of people, it's not something that they look for. So that made me realize that I need to go to a smaller setup where my both good and bad actions are leading to some tangible outcome. And that's when I realized that I need to go to a smaller setup. I got into Myntra. Myntra was again going to
That was back, which year was this?
2019, early 2019.
Myntra wasn't that small back then.
Yeah, but compared to Amazon.
Compared to Amazon.
I had another choice of going to a very early stage. I think it was a company called, I forgot the company name, but it was very early days. B round, done at a senior position. But I think I was scared to take that leap. The leap was going to be very big.
Maybe you're not ready for that.
I was not ready for that. Yeah. And I in retrospect also I realized that it was a good decision.
Right.
So the leap was smaller when I go to Myntra. And then I always had an idea that after I feel comfortable, I will take that leap again. And the next time when I took the leap after Myntra to Ola, it was massive. I went to a company which had 5 employees almost on day zero, literally day zero.
Achha, that's when you joined Ola.
Yeah, I joined. I was the first engineer to be hired there, engineering manager rather.
How did you get in touch with the Indonesian startup?
That's an interesting story. My most frequently used social media is LinkedIn, even today. And I do a lot of cold reach outs to people, just the connection requests that I see an interesting profile. So you'll see college guys being in my connection, you'll see VPs, CTOs, CEOs being in my connection. I have 18,000 connection today, as of today, I think. And this is not just people are reaching out to me. I am proactively reaching out to people. In that journey, I happened to send a connection request to Alan Wong, who was at least from the LinkedIn, he was director of engineering at Booking.com. And he was an ex-Amazonian. So when I sent a connection request,
He was the co-founder, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
co-founder and CTO right now.
Yes. So we happened to chat on LinkedIn. Then we started chatting on WhatsApp. Then he told me about the idea that he was pursuing, along with Nipun and the other Indonesian founders. And we kept chatting for 2-3 months on WhatsApp. I had no plan of leaving Myntra because it was hardly 6-8 months that I had joined Myntra. But then I just fell in love with that guy. And this just blew me away what sort of person and leader he was in those conversations. And I said that this is what I aspire to be someday. And that was it. I said, okay, let's do it. And then it was also meeting my other goals, which is I wanted to take another leap. It came sooner than I planned for. But I said, why not take it?
You ask them questions like, why we're not getting someone from Indonesia? It will be easier in terms of cultural integration. I mean, why would they want to get someone from India with a huge cultural, mismatch as well in such an early stage of the startups? Why do you think that happened?
I think their understanding, the perception of Indonesian tech industry at that time was that they wanted to set up a very tech and product driven company. They needed someone from the Indian tech industry. I think they had clear
ecosystem was not mature,
not evolved enough. Right, yes, though later on I think
today it's not that.
But I feel it has changed a lot.
It's changed a lot, but it's still I think quite very far from where India is. But
yeah, it is. But you can say that about India in 2010. But we are here where we are. I feel Indonesia will catch up sooner or later.
Obviously.
Yeah. So they're growing. They're growing fast.
huge young population, so that's
Yes.
bound to happen.
Yes, one of the most emerging markets, like
Exactly. Absolutely.
whatnot of worlds are there, correct?
Right.
So I think that was the thought process, that you bring someone who's been in a matured ecosystem, can add value, and later on we ended up hiring another head of engineering from Indonesia,
Okay.
Sam, and so both of us were peers to each other, and we were taking care of engineering team together. But I think that was the thought process.
Got it. Nice. Nice. And after that, you moved to
Porter.
right?
Yeah. So 3.5 years of crazy ride in Ula. So many ups, downs, situations. Building a team ground up from zero to 150 people. Both of us, Sam and I, together. Working with Alan, the one of the best people in the tech leadership there. Uh, Taking a business, so I think at peak, if I remember well, it was 400 million ARR. Then, because of macroeconomic situation, we had to take different route. We realized that we tried multiple level of like iterations to make this sustainable, and at some point it was not working out. We had to let go people twice. When the second layoff happened, I realized that my own team got shrunk to 13 people. I don't think I was going to add any value.
Was back when? 21, 22.
2023, last year.
Last
Last year in May, I think Abdul single layoff happened in May. My team got shrunk. I was about to have a baby, and I wanted to stick with Ula because of the leadership, the personal connect. I also was kind of invested more than an employee there. They never treated me as an employee. I never treated the company as a company.
Invested as well, right?
Yeah, it was a hard decision, but I think I had to take it, and had an open conversation with my CTO. He found it fair, and then we parted ways. And that's when for quite some time, I was in touch with an executive search firm, and they connected with me, Porter. I spoke to leadership at Porter.
How big was Porter when you started talking to them?
Big in the sense of number of people?
In terms of scale compared to Ula. Compared to Ula at its peak versus Porter when you started talking to them.
In terms of, I would say, business, they were at peak of Ula. I would say revenue wise like to like, but we were a B2B, and this is a B2C ops business. The average ticket size versus here versus there is quite different. So I wouldn't compare them in that sense. I would compare them in the number of transactions that we make today. I would say in that sense, tech maturity, if you'd ask, product maturity, if you ask, way ahead of Ula in that sense. Certain things at Ula we did differently because the entire setup at Ula was built with a lot of people from industry, which is me, Alan, Mohit, an engineering team, and product. There were a lot of mature people. So I think that obviously had advantage that Porter did not have when they began their journey, because they were all most of people 2 years, 3 years straight away from college, so they had their own share of learning. But where they are today
was much higher at Ula compared to at
absolutely,
Porter.
absolutely. To begin with, if you compare early days, but today I think there's a reason Porter is where it is today because of the leadership maturity. They've grown themselves, they've brought in people, and fairly mature system.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, it was like a level up in terms of role. And if Ula was going at the rate that it was going in 2020, 22, 23, we would have been at where my role would have been very similar to what it is at Porter. So in that way, it was a continuation, and that was a good thing. Like people, like the business, that's all mattered here. Nothing else matters.
I think end of the day, the kind of people you work with, that's what that's most important. Everything else is manageable.
Yes. What they're solving, who they are, what are you going to do? 3 things, simple.
Right.
That's all it is.
And sometimes even if you're doing some boring stuff, but you're doing it with the right set of folks, then that gets more interesting.
Yeah.
And so how do you think you have been in the Indonesian market and the Indian market? So when you moved to Indonesia, when you started working with Ula, I'm sure you work with a lot of Indonesians as well, a lot of folks in the ASEAN region as well. What were some of the cultural shocks, that you had to go through in the early days?
They are nicer people. uh, I have an understanding that when you move from west to east, people get nicer. Look at in India, west to east, you go to northeast, how nice the people are.
Right.
So I think that was one. They're very polite, very high on empathy as people. Uh,
Why do you think that is?
I haven't.
Any theory that you have,
This I haven't paid any. I only have this. No, I don't think I've been able to. Uh, no, I don't have any. Hmm.
Okay, what else apart from,
So one was
nicer
this.
people?
Second, I think they would challenge less to their authority. So as a community, they would listen to their bosses more. Even if they are uncomfortable, they would not challenge.
No, that is true. They will not do that.
And that's a lot. That happens a lot in India, where you.
Yeah.
And as leadership, I look for people who could challenge me. Correct? You want to hire people smarter than
They
you.
should be able to push back,
Yeah,
when
absolutely,
required.
absolutely. Otherwise, it's going to be ineffective. You don't need yes man. So that was another thing I would say.
What I also observed is, they don't challenge, but if they don't like something, they just step out. So without, talking about it, without challenging, they'll leave and they'll go if that is something they don't want to be part of.
I feel there were both sort of people. I feel there were people not challenging, but they were always with you. There were a bunch of people I remember. But
Right.
and when you I think when create relationship, correct, when they become comfortable with you, to get this out, you have to be give them at ease with you.
Yeah.
When they start knowing who you are as a person, they stop looking at you as boss. I think they have great ideas, great recommendations.
Yeah.
They're great thinkers. They might not have been exposed to this tech ecosystem as much as we are as Indians, but with their limited exposure, I think they bring in great value.
That gives them a blank canvas as well.
Yes, new ways of thinking. So
They're not
I think
bound
that
in ways.
yeah, that was something I liked more experience.
Yeah.
And when I got it, I started tapping into it more. A lot of Indonesian folk that I worked with, I started first building relationship, giving them comfort, and once they were at comfort, they opened up. And I think that was amazing for
I think
worked out
that
for
is
me.
for everywhere, So psychological safety is something.
Yes.
Once your team is at ease with you, once your team has that, psychological safety in place, uh, you need to bring best out of the people, right?
Absolutely.
You can't expect them to be best on the very day one. As a leader, that's your job to set them up for success.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just the lines are little farther than what it is in India. India, you probably need to do 2 acts, such acts, and the guy is in. Indonesia, you need to do probably 5 such
Go
acts.
for a drink,
Yeah. Definitely, if that is
And
an
maybe
option.
I think, for the leaders in Indonesia, the overall situation might be quite different, compared to, because since you are coming from India, you are a foreigner for them, right? So obviously it will get a little more difficult for them to get comfortable with you, right? And plus, I think
it
there
is.
is always some kind of insecurity as well. Insecurity, if at a leadership level, if someone is at the same level, so there are, because somewhere or other, like they have this thing that if someone is coming from India, have a very good pedigree, they are somewhat good from them. So they try to very hard to prove themselves as well.
Yeah, they try hard. That is there. Some people were insecure, but I think I also see a lot of insecure people in India. There were a lot of people. I remember there was one of our product managers. She was anything but insecure. She was very confident in her abilities, bringing her ideas, pushing back. So there were examples, and she was a lady. So you can imagine, in that culture, being a woman, she was doing it. That was an amazing thing to see.
Correct.
So, but yeah, obviously the percentage of such people is lesser. It's growing by every day. That's how I
Because
put
think
it.
the best thing over there is, people are not that much after, they don't keep switching, they don't keep moving between companies. That is comparatively quite less compared to India.
I think my experience, it was very same. The people who are moving, and the company that have people who are moving. We were actually also hiring a cream of Indonesia. We've got very good people, and somehow if we were not doing justice to them, they were exiting.
Exiting or you were letting them go? Both.
I think there were more exits. There's some let go both in India and Indonesia, but they were exiting.
Got it.
Our hiring process were fairly good. Uh, I think cultural reasons we've let go some of them, but skill reason I don't remember a lot of people we've let go. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, culturally, someone is not as passionate, as involved as you want to be, especially in the early days of startup.
Mostly culture, because functional tech is something which is so functional. It is quite easy to do that. It's quite easy to assess someone functionally.
Yep.
Mostly people typically is the cultural mismatch that happens.
Yeah, it's the sort of attitude that you're looking at certain role, certain person, and if it doesn't come out, it doesn't work out for both parties, then you have to part ways.
Right.
That happens. Yep.
Yeah.
How's your Indonesia experience?
Mine was quite good. I think once you build good. So what I observed is once you can't work in a very transactional way with these guys, with Indonesians.
Hmm.
I think when you're working very transactionally, you won't be able to bring best out of them.
Yeah.
But when you have built a relationship, once you spend some time with them,
Yeah.
build a relationship, then they get very loyal to you. Like they'll do everything you want, and once they know, that this is the guy who will stand for me, right? And he's thinking about my growth, and he's thinking about my career trajectory. Then they'll all in for you.
Yeah.
But if they don't trust you,
I agree. The transactional relationship doesn't work with them.
right?
That doesn't excite them, and I think we also noticed that in our business, by the way. Our understanding was that if you go to retail market and you go to a retailer and your value proposition is always money, that was not necessarily would excite them. They are businessmen, so they would, but that's not the only thing. They are more community driven, value driven. So that we discovered, I at least discovered late in that business, that we probably weren't chasing always the right thing, and we had to adjust how we were approaching it. That is very
Has to
deeply
be more
ingrained in their
holistic
culture.
approach,
Yes.
Yeah. Compared to India, in India is still it's still easier and possible to get things done transitionally as
It is
well.
comparatively, yes.
Comparatively, obviously, see, end of the day, globally everywhere, if you're able to build relationship, if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
able to forge very nice relationship, it always works. Be
Yeah,
in
it's
any part of
it's the
world.
best currency anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there are certain places where it's just about weightages. There are certain places that carries more weight compared to
Yes,
something
yes,
else. So
that's true.
That's
And that's what I'm saying. The eastern part of the world, I think it matters more.
yeah. Right.
Barring China, I think, but that's my opinion. Yeah.
Right. China is quite what do you call it? So they have a huge fence, so it's very difficult to get aligned with them until unless you don't talk their language, you don't get culturally aligned. You'll always be treated as a foreigner until unless you're in Hong Kong or Macau or somewhere like that.
Yeah. And not a techie. You're not a techie.
Right.
Yeah.
So, nice, interesting. So, how have been this current? You just rightly mentioned that 2010 to 2020, it was the best place to be for the tech, for the engineers, and for the overall the startup ecosystem. But for the last couple of years, the overall startup ecosystem, the funding has completely gone down. Money is not flowing.
Yeah.
So, how do you think how do you think that transition is happening right now? How is the market landscape and overall the tech landscape, both from the hiring perspective, both from the product feature shipping perspective? How has that changed in the last couple of years because of this, or has it not impacted you guys at all?
I think it has. Uh, I would be stupid if I say it hasn't. Uh, let's take last 6-7 years, correct? I think first 5 years in that 2011 to 15, the ecosystem itself was evolving.
Right.
And in that evolution phase, I don't think that anything was settled. So people are figuring out. And a lot of reference was coming from the Silicon Valley. Everyone was using them as a reference. I think the first 5 years in last decade were where the entire ecosystem was evolving, correct? And in that phase of evolution, I think we ourselves were figuring out our reference was Silicon Valley. But I think in later part of that decade, some sort of ingenuity started coming. I would say. Feel it's still not very different, but there are nuances, there are own flavors of cultural flavors, there are ways of operating. I feel there's difference, but the major difference has come in after the 2022 market situation. I feel there was a boom, that crazy period where the salaries were going crazy. Hiring engineers was a like one of the most difficult job. I remember back in 2020 when I started hiring for Ola, you could not even Google Ola. When you Google Ola, you'll find United Launch Alliance, not the Ola that you're looking for. And hiring in that point in time, it was just the moment lockdown has hit, and entire world was in a uncertain frame. And hiring people for an unknown company was, I think, that one of the most difficult challenge that I relished in my career was that I was doing cold messaging. I remember I probably have sent 7,000-8,000 messages on LinkedIn to people.
Wow.
And I don't know, 500 people responded. I ended up speaking to 250 people. Out of those, I probably
You're personally reaching out to
yes.
people,
I think among first 20 people, 20 engineers at Bangalore office of Ola, 15 were hired like this
got it.
because just so difficult to hire. Uh, Identifying people's need who were looking for certain opportunities, which was going to be similar to Ola. Otherwise, we were not the highest pay maker. So, but yeah, marrying the needs, the supply and demand was the goal, and the conversion was, you can imagine, from 8,000 reach outs to 15 people. So it was difficult. So yeah, but going back to the original question, correct? The product shipping landscape. I feel because of that we've seen that crazy period, we've seen that down, the sudden drop of that entire hula hoop of throwing money from the investors to the companies to the employee, everyone just thinking money. This is going to get crazier, but I think it just
Getting more
yeah,
sensible now.
yeah. The bubble, that small bubble, did burst, and everyone became sensible. All the money, the value, is people started putting on every dollar became higher, and that led to a lot of product-based companies being very highly focused on PMF, not burning money, figuring out where and how your business would work, what sort of customer would work for you, and then scaling onward. I think that has been a major shift, in my opinion, last 2 years after that. That's been a learning across industry. All my friends, everyone that I know of, that has changed.
Everyone, even I talk to, today, forget about today, for the last 2 years, everyone is just talking about, actually building a business.
Yep.
Earlier, the conversation was around, let's build something, which can bring in more and more users, which
Yeah.
can bring in more and more traction.
More
Or
more investment
We'll figure out कि पैसा कैसे बनाएंगे, we'll figure out eventually.
later on. Yes.
Now that conversation is not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about unit economics. Everyone is talking about कि यार day one से हम unit economics को हम कैसे sorted रखें. How do we start making money from day
Yeah.
one? That's what, until unless you are not doing something in deep tech.
Yes. Where you need to have that approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Until you're not building some chat GPT sort of product. तो फिर उसके बाद end of the day, everything is you're just digitizing what is already and standardizing everything that is already been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's been the change, in my opinion. There is greater push for efficacy of your tech teams.
Yeah.
The bloated tech teams are not the norm. Everyone wants a lean machinery, to say that. So everyone is at individual level. Generative AI coming to the picture now. There's greater push for people being more effective in what they do, and especially in tech. Correct. So
Yeah.
I think that has changed. So both of these events combined.
Yeah. So do you think that overall engineering mindset has also changed? In the sense, earlier was it were people doing over engineering a lot, for a lot of products versus now, building which is actually solving a certain problem and solving a certain point rather than building, for a scale which can potentially happen in next 5 years or 10 years.
I think there were two worlds before. How both worlds have evolved, I can tell you. There were companies which would think of this 5 years down the line from the word go. There were companies they would say, I only know next month, next quarter, and that's all. I can't think beyond that. So don't build for that. Both of them, both extremes have had their own.
Strike a balance.
Yes. So I feel that is over engineering, that you don't know what changes. The landscape is so dynamic that 5 years, I don't know you will be able to reach to that point in time with the same product. That's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
3 months is too myopic. You need to have at least
A year.
some view,
Right.
depending on the what stage of business you are at, correct?
Kind of a vision.
Yeah.
Right. So until unless you have a PMF, so sometimes what happens, you build a certain product, which have achieved, a very nice, amazing PMF. This is going to stay for some time. In that case, it's okay. You have a long-term vision.
Yes, yes.
But when you're experimenting, what went wrong in the overall, in the engineering domain or the engineering mindset was, everybody started thinking for a very long-term perspective. How do we build for 1 million users when you don't even have 100 or 200 concurrent users?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is something which went off, and that was the reason people started investing a lot, building humongous engineering teams, building on having those subscriptions and those licenses of certain softwares, which was probably not required. So yeah, I think, in my opinion, that has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Being more functional in nature and not too long, not too short, somewhere in between.
Not necessarily the first one, which is everyone's building for massive scale, but there was a lot of investment into in terms of salaries, the benefits to the tooling to engineers. There is far more rationalization at this point of time. Value proposition conversations are like the first if you want to talk about anything coming to the picture. So I think that's what the going back to older conversation where they're putting more value for every dollar that you want to spend. That's what it is, because the engineers tend to overspend. The mindset in the industry, especially our engineer, they're not thinking costs. They're not thinking value proposition. Everyone just wants to. You look at engineering resumes, you see, it looks like builders. And I'm guilty of same for a very long time in my career. Yeah, everyone talks about building. Everyone loves building. Everyone aspires to build something, use a certain technology. But how do I translate that learning, that building skill to an outcome, solving a real world problem? That thought, and I think that is changing. A lot of this greater push from leadership, from tech leadership, but at every layer, that guys think of outcomes, have that mindset. That also is changing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. But I think maybe that's happening for the right reasons, and it should go there actually eventually. So yeah.
When you Google an engineer, correct, it tells you, might be language could be here and there, but it literally means that you're solving real world problems with the tool. You're an engineer. Now, today, software engineering has largely become in the industry is that you learn to use a tool very well. But a lot of people cannot relate back to. So, throwing a problem, they don't know if I can apply this tool or not.
So, not just about tooling. So, one thing that I've also observed, different from what we were discussing, right? So, overall, there is a huge demand-supply gap in terms of good engineers. And what I always see, there are average engineers and good engineers, and the average ones are never able to reach here, no matter what they do, because it's not just about the skill set. The most important thing is the mindset, right? And transitioning or changing mindset, I think, is the most difficult job anyone can do, right? And the second one is, and that's the difference between a developer and an engineer as well, right? So, are you just using tool to build it? Although you might not, going into the fundamentals, you don't know how operating system works, right? at least you should understand up to a certain depth कि यार ये tool काम कैसे करता है, how does it work internally, and only then when it comes to solving complex problems and then into troubleshooting a complex problem, only then you will be able to do it. Otherwise, you'll only be able to solve it at a very superficial level.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, one way of saying it, I agree.
yeah.
That's how it has been. Like this joke that in Bangalore, if you can write "Hello World," you'll get 20 lakhs. And there are literally people that you work and you struggle with and see why are you even paying this guy?
That's what happened post-pandemic.
Yeah, that happens.
I remember talking to few guys, a fresher, एक साल का experience, एक दो साल का experience है, was at 6 LPA. He got an offer of 12 LPA and saying कि यार मेरे को 18 दोगे then I'll come, otherwise इतना तो मेरे को चाहिए. And I was like कि भाई तू क्या ऐसा क्या कर देगा? Crazy things are going, but I think that has normalized a little bit because end of the day, the kind of value you are adding to any business, there has to be a very tangible outcome related to that. If that is not happening, it's not a very long-term stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we do invest in young people, correct? The industry invests in young people, freshers. But I think that largely everyone invests for the mindset.
I know, right?
The
Absolutely.
skill can be taught, you can learn that, you can evolve, you can get better. But mindset takes time, and it does change, but it takes time. You need to have certain things
I totally agree.
to happen in your life to change that. So and that's not very common.
It's more about, if you are creative enough, you know how to write a book or write a story. So you just need to learn different languages, be it English, be it Hindi, be it something else. But if you don't know, if you're not able to write a story, if you're not able to imagine a certain story or certain creatives, then no matter how many languages, you will never be able to translate or build something tangible out of that. So,
हाँ मतलब if you have the drive and the hunger, you'll figure it out. And software engineering is not rocket science unless you're actually doing deep tech work, correct? It's about your attitude, it's about understanding the ecosystem, people around you, working with people, being relentless. So it's more with the attitude and skill.
right.
And people have succeeded in that sense.
Yeah. Anyway, moving to, I think we got too much
Yeah.
into this. Moving to the next one. So, what is the message for young engineers who maybe look at your profile or look at you in your team as well? How should I become? What should I do to become someone like Ankit? So, what is your message for them? What should they do, and how should they navigate their career to climb up the engineering leadership ladder?
I think one thing I feel that has helped me in my career later on, I think I was not utilizing the skill a lot in my first half, was curiosity.
Okay.
Stay curious about what's going on, how decisions are being taken. So if an engineer comes up to me and says, Ankit, why are we even doing this? It's a very good conversation to have because now I know this guy is seeking more.
Yeah.
So the curiosity, it has to begin with curiosity. Start questioning things with the intent of curiosity. So that when you have the skill of curiosity, now utilize that to ask question. You can ask question with so many intents, but I think the cleanest intent is to be curious.
Okay.
Once you are asking question with that intent, you will start to learn more. You start to build a perception, and it could be about certain technology, certain products that you're building. It could be certain processes, certain structure. All of this is part of leadership, correct? So people could be curious about anything. Why, even we have 3 managers, 3 different teams, why don't we work together? The simple questions, correct? But all of them make sense. All of them are driven by a higher order problem that we are figuring out, and how do we solve them on the ground, correct? So if people have curiosity in that sense, they should indulge into those conversations. After that, they'll start building perception. When you start building perception, you'll identify problems sooner than later. When you start to identify problems, start throwing solutions. Start with poor solutions. I always tell my team, to learn a skill, you have to start. And when you start, you'll be bad.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of being bad. That's the journey.
Get your hands dirty.
Yes,
Do something. Get it
do
started.
something, and you'll get better.
Yeah.
People have struggled with prioritizing stuff. I said, okay, I won't prioritize for you. You start prioritizing, and I will observe and I'll give you feedback. You will get better, but until you do, you will never get better.
Yeah.
So, so with that, going back to that line of curiosity, identifying problem, proposing poor solution to getting good with solutions. I think that's what we do. We today as leadership, we solve problems, we identify, we solve problems, and we are. I am always ready to solve problems with massive ambiguity.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's where the value add is. Following a process has never been my thing because I think I'm not adding value. Uh, and most people in leadership are adding value because there are ambiguity.
Yeah.
And can you break them down into simpler steps for your team so that they have lesser to worry about? And then I always want to pass on some level of ambiguity to my team so they can grow leaders. But the complexity of ambiguity, the scope of ambiguity can be toned down.
Absolutely right.
So that's what I think is simple. Just be curious. Start from the intent of curiosity. Everything builds on.
Curious and just do, whatever you have in hand and start doing.
Yeah. No company is bad or good.
Yeah.
No product is bad or good. It's the people. I've seen in companies with low revenue, not an amazing product, great engineers have come out.
Right.
I've seen in greater companies, very average engineers have come out.
Culture, it's the
Yeah, it's
mindset, right?
it's who you are, who controls things. Nobody else does. So people look at a lot on external stuff and say, hey, this is what the problem is. I know my background, this, so I'm not succeeding because of this, blah blah blah. But you can't control. You can't control. What you can control is yourself. So
you can never control.
Never
at
control.
any level, right? Even as a CTO, not everything you can control. So
yeah, I say if I get to work with a difficult person as a stakeholder or some of my direct reports or my manager, that's an opportunity for me. If I am able to work with a difficult person, it's a win. I would be able to deal with multiple difficult people tomorrow. So it's an opportunity. Don't run away from this. Don't wait for all things to happen in the right sense for you to go and succeed. That's never going to happen. So cherish difficulties, ambiguities, chaos. Try to navigate. Take a first dig. Ask question. Seek help. My current ex-vice chairman, when I joined the company in Portal, Pranav, he gave me a book. The book is A Boy and a Horse and a Mole and something else. There are 4 things. And it's the only book that I have read completely. I can't read books because it's a pictorial book. So there are pictures and it's like a comic.
Achha.
And it's 15 minutes read maximum. The biggest message that book has is the bravest thing to do is seek help. And it's so undermined. Like people are afraid to seek help because they feel I will be looked down.
They feel judged.
They feel judged, and it's also a reality. Let's not deny the reality. Let's not deny it.
You
But
need to have a lot of maturity. If someone is seeking help and you don't judge them, you just
yes,
appreciate that.
yes,
So that is not there.
yeah. But I think irrespective of what exists, you should
You
try.
have to find, right?
You have to try. You have to
find
go.
the path.
Yeah. So that's what my message is.
That's very insightful. I think
Thank you.
Very nice. Okay. Next one. Talking about the next one. So, a lot of engineering leaders that I talk to or interact with on a day-to-day basis. Also, a lot of folks that I have worked with in my career. What I observe is, people grow as an engineering leader, but are not able to get out of the developer mindset, which leads, them when they talk to their board, they talk to their top management, CEOs, founders, investors, whoever, they're not able to talk business. They are talking like a developer. They are not talking like a business person who is a techie. So there is a difference, right? So what are your thoughts or what are your suggestions, message to those guys? How do they navigate into that? And then they complain, ki, my management doesn't understand tech.
Yeah.
They don't let me, decide. I'm not getting budget to do this, not getting budget to do that, not getting
Yeah.
time to do something like this. And probably, I think 99% of the problems, be it life, be it work, is around messaging.
Yeah, it is.
If you can communicate properly, I think most of the problem gets solved.
Yeah.
So, what is your message for these guys?
Someone asked me one day, if you have to build a product, think of a product, what would that be? And I said, if you just get a product which can take my thoughts and communicate effectively, that will change the game, like for everyone, correct? So I feel the message, the key lies in understanding the other person's motive, listening to, if I'm a tech guy, I should listen to a lot of business folks, what they care about. Because ultimately, what you do, there is always a correlation. Take an example, you're trying to build a site, correct? A system that scales for 5x of your traffic. Now, if your business is not planning for 5x of traffic,
Correct.
and you are planning for 5x of traffic in your systems, there's no mismatch. There's no match. So if you've heard your leadership enough and you understand that they want it, you can tap onto it. If your business worries about why am I certain days my business is low, and if the reality lies that your system's uptime is bad, they will not understand what do you mean by 99.5% uptime. But if you translate that to simple words, for X number of hours every day your system fails, and that means X% of your business, and it's happening on the peak, so it's probably even far higher. They will not like it. Then you have a value proposition. How much of my time is money, correct? Resources are money. How much of investment you would need to get me this revenue? It's a simple message to pass. So if you care about what they want, if you understand how they look at the world and the business, it's simply relatable. It's so I've had my own share of struggle translating that to business folks. Had been a journey, a lot of mentorship, a lot of support has been available. It's easier said than done. I am saying it right away because I think I've been blessed with a lot of people who could teach me this.
Right.
But I assume it is, now I feel that it is simple, but it requires effort. It requires practice. And I feel there's also value in teaching certain jargons, tech jargons, language within the business leadership. Like at Porter, a lot of our business leadership understands uptime, error rate. They understand this and they appreciate it. They would call out, they care about it.
You have to educate them as well.
Yes, you have to educate. Like Amazon has this culture where they would, because it's a tech driven company, when there are incidents happening, people who work closely with tech team, the program management, product management, ground operation management, all of the people who are working closely with tech, they understand a lot of these words. Because Amazon has the culture that both parties have to understand, and that's how the collaboration works. So the effort has to go in both directions. If you feel that your leaders do not understand, invest time, seek investment, justify why that investment is needed, teach them certain jargons. And then also you try to learn their language, try to translate as much as you can.
In their language.
Yes. Because you're not doing anything in tech for the sake of fun, correct? If you're trying
nothing
to
for vanity,
nothing for vanity. You're trying to build a new platform. You're trying to get a new stack. It definitely has a value proposition. You're going to get faster. Explain that into simple velocity system. Hey, the product I took 6 days to build, I will take 2 hours to build tomorrow because if you bring this in. And if you explain that in simple words, why wouldn't someone go for it? And this again, everything is money. So a business person looks for money.
Translate it into in terms of numbers.
No, yeah, cost, time. These are the value proposition, and there are a lot of great leaders, business leaders, who are probably also not looking for 6 months gain. They're looking for 2 years, 3 years ahead of the time. So if someone is thinking ahead of the time, it's you can always tap into all the opportunities that will enable your company 2 years, 3 years ahead in the time. So you can invest into it because you're doing the right thing for the company. But if the leadership doesn't want to, they have certain goals they're chasing, why would you deviate? So don't deviate. Stick with what they're chasing and always find synergy. There's always a match.
So basically identify the overall company's North Star and navigate around that.
Yes.
Talk in the lingo, that is easily understandable for all the parties.
Yep.
And make messaging as clear as possible.
Yeah, they build appreciation. See, sometimes we go and give them message why it is delayed, why there is an error, why the system is not working, why my app is down, and they don't understand why all of this has happened. They think you're an ineffective person. Correct? That's the overall conclusion. You can change that narrative by building some appreciation of certain things over a period. When you passing your message, teach one jargon, teach one nuance of it. Tell them what this means. And they will start. They're all humans, they are growing. Is your leader,
Right, I
he
think what
would
happens,
evolve.
for business, it becomes a black box, and that's
Yes.
the reason probably, building trust gets little more difficult for both the parties.
Yes, yes. So don't treat them like a lot of people treat them, hey, this guy doesn't understand tech, why would I go and tell them?
Very common.
That attitude is not going to work. You have to, you've learned yourself. They're all smart people. They would learn. It's not rocket science. I would repeat it. You would have to explain, teach them. They will start appreciating. Your life will become easier. The company will gain from it.
Yeah, you have to understand that, like both these are complementing in nature.
Absolutely.
So you don't know business, this person might not understand tech.
Yeah.
And how do you help each other grow?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, both personally as well as professionally. Makes sense. And what is your message again for the business founders or the CEOs? Because for them as well, if let's say a CTO goes out and asks, we need one sprint will just do tech debt management, one sprint will just work on optimization, we work on latency or something around those lines. Some of them, just think that probably, it was not done right. Why it was not done right in the very first place? It should have been done right in the very first place itself, right? It means that you haven't done it right. And that's the mindset where people are primarily, which abhi, you just communicated. It's more around messaging and both the parties need to work together. But anything that you want to add around this?
I think things that I've learned, if I have to redo some of the opportunities that I've had in past, I would set like real expectations. When I'm building something and I'm compromising on quality, and I know that I'm building in a way where I'm limiting certain things that I can't do after 6 months at a higher scale or complexity, I will let them know. I will build that appreciation from that point on. This is on something transparency about.
From day one.
Yes, he might be a visionary and say, hey Ankit, why are you even taking this stance? Oh, I think everything has to be delivered fast. That's the message I'm getting. So no, you can take another month, but build something which runs for a year. We don't have to go look back. Having this transparent conversation will build trust. And you don't know what to tap because you're not passing the right message. This person doesn't know. He's hired you for doing a job. Correct. He thinks you understand the pulse of the company, you're taking the right decision. So if you don't understand, get the pulse of the company. So that's for us to do. For business leaders, I feel if you're running a tech company, invest some time, read some books.
Learning tech,
understanding tech. Yeah, the books which simplifies them for business. I forgot the name. I can send that later on. Tech for Dummies is one. There's a good book of one of our business leaders was reading. Understand how things work at high level, at abstract level, so that your conversation, your life or your tech person, if he's not that evolved and mature, you can still gain out of it because he has all the right intention. Sometimes he doesn't have all the right skill of messaging
alignment
or communication.
Is missing. It's mostly the alignment mismatch.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So they should invest if you're running a tech company, you should invest in these jargons, understanding basics of it.
Fair enough.
And if I want to grow as a tech leader, I need to invest in learning the business lingo and attributing a business number to a tech number or tech initiative. I should be able to do it.
Sounds good. I think that's all, Ankit.
Thank
you
you
so much for for such a thoughtful discussion. Really loved it.
Thank you so much.